Well, hi YouTubers, hi. I'm back with 6 books in isolation, and I'll be truly honest, this was not an easy read. Now, I'm going to do a quick advance warning here. I don't want to upset anyone by what I'm going to say, but sadly I need to tell you that it's discussing a murder of the author. Now, the book is Falling Hook, Line and Sinker by Helen Bailey. Now, it's interesting because in 2016, Helen Bailey was murdered by her partner Ian Stewart. Now, I put the book down. Now, this book was published in 2010. Now, in the series, the Electra series, I do have Helen Bailey's list, okay? Now, Love at the Shallow End, Out of My Depth, Swimming Against the Tide, Taking the Plunge, and Falling Hook, Line and Sinker, which is this. Now, in 2011, John, her husband, they were on a holiday together, and sadly, John drowned. So by breakfast, she was a wife, and by lunchtime, she was a widow. During her grief, Helen met Ian Stewart. Now, Ian Stewart, essentially, and there are documentaries online and on TV you can find. Ian Stewart, he love bombed her. Okay, they got together. Ian stated at the time he was grieving for his late partner too, who is now being investigated currently because he may have something to do with her death. He love bombed her. He essentially drugged her, made her think she was losing her mind, and then he murdered her in 2016. And it's quite difficult because in this book, at the end, okay, Helen worked in the media and now runs a successful London-based character licensing agency, which has worked on international renowned properties such as Snoopy, Dirty Dancing, Dilbert, and Felicity Wishes, with her Dashan Boris and her husband John. She divides her time between Highgate, North London, and the North East. She's the author of a number of short stories, young novels, and picture books. Now, within 6 years, John would have passed away, and Helen and Boris would be killed. Ian put her in the cesspit of their home, thinking that it was hidden in the garage, and he killed her. And it's very difficult reading this book knowing that a year after this book came out, Helen's life would be turned upside down, and then within 6 years after this book came out, she'd be gone. It's an absolutely tragic and awful tale. Now, this is the only book I've ever read of Helen Bailey's because it's the only one my library has. So, I'm going to read the blurb at the back. I'm sorry if I upset anyone, but I just want to put everything in context, okay? I'm going to be as respectful as I can for someone who reviews books about Helen's words, okay? I'm head over heels in love. I'm fallen hook, line and sinker for a testosterone-packed hunk. He's cute, he's cool, he's also been expelled from school. He's totally into me. It's just one minor problem. I already have a boyfriend. I should do what is right and walk away. But will I? As if. I can be very shallow. These are the frank and sometimes serious freaky rants of me. Electra Brown, welcome to my crazy world. Okay, so Electra Brown, she's 15 years old, and she has just found her first proper boyfriend. Well, his name's Fraser, but she calls him FB a lot, which within the text I found that very distracting. You know, I was with FB called. I just wanted to call him Fraser, just kind of be done with it. But she's obviously it's first love. It's a very intense first love, especially on Fraser's side, because Fraser's way too intense for a 15-year-old boy. Okay, he has pretty much decided their lives. They're gonna kind of settle down and get married, and they're only 15 years old. Remember this. He's even decided the names of their children: Oliver, and Fleur. That's gonna be the names of their future children. Remember, they're 15. Okay. So this bit here, though, this kind of really captures what it means to be. Everyone can recognise this. This is when they're going out on their first date. It's page 51. Okay. Getting home at 5 means I've only got a pitiful hour and a half to get ready before Mum runs me to the curry cottage for 7. I've got to shower and wash and deep condition my hair, blow dry, put my makeup on and decide what to wear. It's not ideal, but just about doable. Although the effort might be a problem, as I never got to go shopping in the end. Sora has volunteered to help out at the Baytree, as her mum was short-staffed, and Lucy couldn't meet until midday because Bella booked her appointment with her dental hygienist at 11. By which point I was already sitting between two bottom bumpers on a dual carriageway. Now, let me just surmise Electra's life. Her parents are divorced. They married her parents married very young. Teen pregnancy. And Dad cheated. Dad moved out. Mum's got a new boyfriend. Mum is now pregnant. And it's interesting because it starts off with Electra's mum really getting Electra involved in this, basically talking about what's going to be like to have the baby, discussing names with the baby, just kind of keep Electra involved in this. But Electra is I love this about her. Electra's very, very entitled. She's actually very, very self-centered. Essentially, this baby is a disaster for her. Now, I kind of get it because obviously being the teenager, you always think, oh, it's kind of like when there's a bigger age gap between siblings. And people always say, oh, well, you'll be doing a lot of babysitting. And it's kind of like, no, I won't be. So get actual babysitter. Don't dump the baby with me. And I really like that about her. She's entitled. She's selfish. She's actually not a good, nice person. I thought it was really, really refreshing. There were a few issues with this book, though. Okay. Now, obviously, the first day is an absolute disaster. FB or Frasier, it's kind of like a double date thing, and Frasier, well, I think he skipped out. He's not. His curry was too hot, and it kind of affected him, and so he just had some money. And literally had to go home because he was feeling sick. But Electra is such a drama queen. I shouldn't see it that way. She humiliates him. You know, where were you, kind of thing. You broke my heart. She is as dramatic as FB. Okay, so very self-centered and entitled. It's all about her. Okay, it is all about her. And this relationship is so, so intense that when they do break up, I actually was very, very relieved because it just wasn't healthy. This is when they go to, this is, okay, in between, Electra meets Rupert. Now, Rupert is, I've ever seen the film Reality Bites. He is privileged, he's from a wealthy family, he's a dropout, he's a loser, he does drugs, he drives a car. He is several years older than Electra, and obviously he's the bad boy. He's like Troy in Reality Bites. Have you ever seen Reality Bites? He's the bad boy. He's in a band, you know. So, and the thing is, it's weird because Frasier is, maybe because it's a class thing, because Frasier's from a bit more upper class than that. His dad's a doctor, okay, so they're a bit more upper, okay. And this is Frasier's at this house, and he's a bit more deluded, okay, but what's going on, basically giving like a glorified squat, okay. And this is Frasier's reaction. It'd be great to have a house like this one day, FB says. You want a house like this? I say amazed. I couldn't believe anyone brought up in a house on 7 Compton Avenue, despite living what's basically a pebble dash shed rather than a place oozing granite and steel, with a swish plant filled conservatory and startling green lawns. Oh yes, FB. Somewhere in the country that we could do up. A nice place in the fresh air to bring up Oliver and Fleur. It's fetch Oliver and Fleur again. Yeah. He's so intense on, remember they're 15 years old. They are far too young. They're far too young to be thinking about this. But it's just so, so intense as well. Now, the thing is with Electra, once again, she's very, very selfish. She's very, very entitled. And when her mum finds out, remember her mum is pregnant, okay? Alright, I just spit here. And this is when basically Electra lays it out. She actually lays out the reality, but she's still deluded, okay? Right. Right. 17, mum exposed 17. Mm-hmm. You're riding around in the car with a 17-year-old and I know nothing about it. Thank God I knocked a year off it. If I told the truth, mum would have gone into labour right there in the kitchen. The cannabis in the school greenhouse confession would have definitely killed her off. I fitted in July, I point out, and I haven't been in the car yet, just over it. You're 14, so I keep calling Electra 15 because she refers to herself a lot as nearly 15. She actually is 14. Okay, right? 14-year-old riding the car with a bad boy. Mm-hmm. Electra is not as smart as she thinks she is. Okay, so essentially she's with the bad boy. Mm-hmm. She is with the bad boy, the dropout, the very, very privileged, rich dropout, the guy, kind of person who can afford to drop out because, hey, he's not paying his own tuition fees. And it's really kind of indicative, okay, of the fact is, okay, that Frasier and Electra break up. She gets with Rupert, his name is Rupert, really, really quickly. Rupert the bad boy, Rupert with the mini, okay? And Rupert is such a pretentious prick. He is such a pretentious prick. You know, right away, any single protest in London, he'd be there. He'd be the kind of guy who, right now, remember last year where, oh, I forgot the Greenpeace people, okay, who were protesting on the bridges, okay? Extinction Rebellion. He'd be Extinction Rebellion, okay? He'd be the kind of guy, okay, who would stand on top of a train during rush hour, stopping people getting to and from work, because to skin out, save the world and save the planet, even though he doesn't actually practice what he preaches. He's the kind of guy, okay, who would fly from another country to protest about greenhouse emissions, to prove a point, because he's that pretentious. And this is the kind of it's the kind of bit, okay, where he convinces Electra to ditch school. Okay? Right. It's hard to think of the timetable when you're face to face with an absurdly beautiful boy and it's 8:20 in the morning. It takes a bit of thought before I remember. English, lit, geography, maths. I can do all those things, Rupert says. Hop in. I can't. Why can't you, Rupert asks? What's stopping you other than the desire to conform to a rigid system imposed by narrow-minded bureaucrats? See what I mean by a pretentious prick? He's a pretentious prick. Okay? And this bit here, okay? Alright. You don't wear a watch, I say. Notice his left wrist is full of coloured rubber wristbands, but nothing on his right hand. Aren't you late or early for everything? A clock is just a man's attempt to harness time, Rupert says. I prefer to just go with instinct. Yeah, instinct. And he wears his, wristbands, Greenpeace, Save the Whales and stuff, okay? Because he's that pretentious. So this is actually, I've really enjoyed this because I think a lot of readers will identify themselves for a lot of Electra, okay? Her situation, obviously her parents are split up, her family situation. However, now Helen Bailey wrote this. Electra is a working class character, okay? However, I'm a working class reader. And it's interesting because it kind of does delve into a lot of stereotypes. There is a single mum, a friend of hers, okay, who gives her child a ridiculous name. Gives her child an absolutely ridiculous name. And literally, because she's such a terrible parent, she just dumps him on her. Okay, Electra sees her in town and suddenly gets, suddenly, one minute, okay, it's the whole kind of, please watch my kid for a second. Then, okay, she's holding the baby because mum goes for coffee, okay? Because terrible parenting in the working class community has got it. And calls her daughter Tequila Beggs. This individual, okay, who was actually in the same school as Electra and had to leave because she got pregnant. Yeah. So there's that going on. There's the father, Electra's father, okay, who is, quite misogynistic at times. Okay, does love his family. There's obviously the kind of broken home. There's drugs going on, and the thing is, I'm at the same time, I'm really sometimes going to get a working class character, but sometimes I absolutely hate the reliance on stereotypes. It just feels a lot of the times when authors are writing about working class communities, it's always the same kind of thing: drugs, alcohol, towel flats. Okay, we're not all like that. Okay, we're not. And so at the same time, I did enjoy this book, but at the same time, I didn't appreciate that it relied so much on stereotypes. Even though I did absolutely love the fact that Electra is a very, very flawed protagonist. She's selfish, she's nice, she's entitled. She basically cheats on her boyfriend. And then when it's over, she wants to get her boyfriend back, but he's moved on. Now, it's quite interesting because during their relationship, Frasier was possessive and entitled, but when they're not together, they're literally the couple that are better as friends, if you will. So I enjoyed it, and I do feel really sad what happened to Helen. I mean, it was absolutely awful. I'm gonna put links to it under to explain in more detail. And I would have liked to see more of Electra as an adult. Maybe kind of do an adult version of Electra growing up. And I haven't read any of the other of the series. I'm just so sorry what happened to her, because even though when I'm critiquing it, she was a very, very talented writer, and what happened to her was absolutely deplorable, and my heart still breaks for her family. So, on that note, I'm signing off here. Take care, everyone. Stay safe, and bye now.